Hi there and welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2024 Wildwood 36Vbds. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you are pre-mounted, pre-wired for a Furion observation camera as well as a Liberty collapsible stair system. If you'd like to get set up with either of those, you can contact your parts department. Both are going to be a great addition for your camper. Also located at the back, get your spare tire underneath that cover. And then in the rear bumper tube, pull it on the cap on either side. That's going to pop right out of place. Typically, that's going to be where you want to store your sewer hose. We don't currently have one in there just because there is a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which I'll show you once we get there. You're going to keep that in there after your first use just so it keeps as much smell out of the unit as possible. Next, coming to your left, we do have your stabilizer jacks. A couple notes about stabilizer jacks. They are stabilizing jacks. They're not leveling jacks. Please don't try and use them as so, otherwise you do run the risk of bending them. And the same goes for if you're using an electric impact or a drill, which I am today, but I'm of course going to be careful. So first step for these stabilizer jacks is you're going to want to undo the safety chain on whichever one you're putting down. There is one in all four corners of the unit, but always whenever you put them back up, always making sure you do latch that safety chain. In that case, if you're going down the road and for some reason they automatically start lowering down, the safety chain is going to stop them from dragging and causing a bunch of damage on the highway. Then you can take your drill, hook it up to the 3/4 inch drive tool, start running that foot down to the ground. When you have it loose enough, you should be able to pull up this little clip here and allow that to make its way down to the ground. Once that's down to the ground, the idea with this arm here is to try and get it as close to 90 degrees as possible. So once that's down on the ground, we're going to run it a little bit here. And you're going to see that second last hole there is going to be the closest one to 90. So once that's down on the ground, you're just doing it until it's nice and firm like so. Now that's going to take any bouncers away you see we have in the unit right now away. Now to get that back into the suck it in mode, put the drill in reverse, hook it up to your 3/4 inch drive tool again, start going in reverse, of course lifting up that guy there, and of course my drill battery's going dead, so it's not going to front way up. Once that is up, again just hooking your safety chain back up and you're all done. And you would have to do that for all four sides. They are controlled individually, so that is how you would do that. Making our way down the unit some more, get your main power cord inlet. This is a 30 amp trailer. You're just taking note of that notch there. It lines up with this notch on this side. Pushing that firmly into place. 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug in. Now most campsites should have this and you can plug right on in, but let's say you have the unit at home or a campsite only has 15 amp service. We do include that 15 amp park adapter. But just keep it in mind whenever you are using it, you're only going to be able to run your fridge and your lights. It's not to run an air conditioner or anything like that. And once you're plugged in, you get in the one blue light on the top, letting you know you have a successful power source. If the red light were to be on, it'd be just telling you that your source of power is bad. It's not a problem with the trailer. To the left of that, you got your 2 cable satellite inlets. Then you have what's called black tank flush. The way that works is with your sewer connected and your black tank valve open. It's very important you do so because there is a caution sticker here that's going to tell you that. You can flush out that black tank if you're getting false monitor panel readings or just noticing an aroma. Now the reason you have to have the tank connected and open is because if you're pushing pressure inside of the tank and that pressure does have nowhere to go, it could expand the tank to the point of cracking. Next is your city water connection. So if you're at a site with service, you can just thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. Then right down below, you got your main sewer exit. You're just taking and twisting, pulling that off. You're just taking note of those ears. It's the same ears your sewer hose is going to have. They line up with the notches like so and click and lock into place. You got your gray valve and your black valve. You always want to empty your black valve first. This is going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. And then you can come behind that with your gray valve, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. You do got your 2 low point drains for your hot and cold lines. You're going to always want to open those up if you're leaving the unit for a while and don't want the water going stale or stagnant. Or if you're done winterization process completely for the season, you want to relieve some of the antifreeze out of there, it's a great way to do so. Exterior shower, that's going to open with your standard 751 key. Now Now coming up to the front now. You get your 24V inside that battery box there. Then you got your battery disconnect switch on the wall or on the front frame. And with it in the on position like it is now, the batteries are connected to the unit. Turning it to the off position would then disconnect the batteries from the unit. And in addition to disconnecting the batteries, it does disable the 12 volt throughout the unit. So if you plugged it in, you didn't have any lights or anything turning on, just make sure you do have the 12 volt disconnect on. So if it were to be in the off, like I said, it does disconnect the batteries. Underneath this cover here is 2 standard propane tanks. Typically, you just loosen up these tabs. It'll allow you to flip this cover open. You can get what you need done from right up top. For the purpose of the video, I will just slide it right off. You got your regulator. Now in front of that, you got your selector valve. With it pointed this way, you're going to be drawing off that tank. Now if this tank were to go dry, close it, take it off, and then you can flip the regulator to the other side, start drawing off this tank while this one's getting filled up. So turn it on, it's pretty standard counterclockwise like any standard barbecue. Opens up the flow of propane to the unit. Underneath here, you got your front tongue jack, manual override up top in case it would fail for whatever reason. And then you got your one exterior compartment. You got your starter kit, which is going to have that 10-foot sewer hose, a 15-foot water hose, the 15-amp park adapter, which I've already told you about, and then just some other miscellaneous goodies. Aside from that, inside here, on the wall, you got your 3/4-inch drive tool for the stabilizer jacks, the manual one. It also comes included with that manual override for the tongue jack. Now coming a little further down the unit, you got your patio entrance, which we'll go over in a few minutes. And then you do have your Suburban hot water heater. Popping that guy open, main thing you need to worry about, that little power switch, turning that on supplies power to the thermostat inside. That's how you do that. And then if you've had a trailer before and did the winterizing yourself, you probably had a tank water heater. Now with tank water heaters, there was a bypass system you had to do when it came time to winterization. Now this system is completely different. There's no bypass operations on the back of this heater, and if there are, you don't touch them. You do want to run antifreeze through it, and once you're done your winterization process completely, just crack in this pressure relief valve and leaving it cracked open for the duration of winter. That way, once that antifreeze starts gelling up during those extremely cold months, it does have a place to go and it doesn't crack one of your coils, causing you some money. You don't want that, so that's how you do that. You got your fresh water inlet. So if you're at a service, you can put a garden hose in there, fill it up, and that's what fills your fresh tank. The drain for that, just right down below here, pulling on that white valve, opens up the drain for the fresh tank and allows all that water out. And then you got your rear entrance, which we'll go over after we go over the front entrance. The reason we don't just go through one is with the slide outs in, you can't get between the 2 rooms. So this patio door is gonna unlock with your household style key that's gonna be on your keyring. This does lock from the inside. Let's say you forgot to unlock your screen door when you closed it up for the season, so you can't get inside through this door. You still can get access to the bedroom, you just have to climb over the couch and the island. We're gonna try to avoid that. We don't want to scuff up. So we're gonna go in through this door today, pop that down. The stairs both work the same way, they just fold out. Once you take a step on the side, first thing you notice off on the left is that fire extinguisher, which is just like home, pull the pin and shoot. And now because this unit is equipped with propane, with the furnace and the stove both working off that, you got your LP detector right there near the ground. If that guy ever starts going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit and open up some windows and vents to get some fresh oxygen inside of here. Now we're going to go over just the slide out operation for now. Push and holding the slide out button, slide out's going to start making its way out. Once that slide out's at its full extension, you're going to hear the motors wind up and then click, so you can let off the button. Just a couple extra notes for slide outs whenever you're running them in or out. Always trying to be mindful of what's on each side of the slide, inside and out, before you operate them. The reason I say inside is sometimes things do tend to shift during travel, so you want to make sure that both slides are sliding freely. I know that sometimes you can't check behind them with the way they come in, so just whenever you are operating them, just being visual and mindful of how they're going out nice and even, and making sure not one side's not binding up or cracking on anything, because you don't want to trap anything between there, break anything. So once that's done, you just push and hold the out button. The slide out's going to start making its way out. Once it's at its full extension, Again, you're just going to hear the motors wind up and click. And you heard the clicking, so you know you're at your full extension. Now, since we're here, we'll go over the rest of it. You got your dimmer switch, turning that on, turns on all the main living space lights. If you push and hold it, it does dim the lights bright to dim. And wherever you let off the button is where the lights will stay once you turn them off and then on again. Got your monitor panel system, so pushing the button gives you the corresponding level for all the tanks and the battery, of course. And then you got your water pump switch, which draws out of your fresh tank. Then you got a couple different light switch. One is going to do the awning LED, and the other is going to do some accent lighting behind the slide out. You got your solar controller right up top. Now there's a bunch of different settings you can go and play with. I'm going to recommend going over the owner's manual for getting those set up because it gets pretty in depth. But we do currently have it set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside hitting those solar panels, it's going to be applying a charge to the front battery. And last but not least, you do have your awning operation. Run that awning out. You're just pushing and holding the out button. Once the awning's at its full extension, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and the little flap hang down. Sometimes that flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it and put it back out to get that flap to come down. Now, unfortunately, today we don't have enough space to get the awning all the way out, but we'll be able to get it out enough like you see. Now, if it were to start raining, you could take any arm, front or rear, pull down at the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now, if you like that angle better because it does allow for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just making sure you do push them both back to straight before you bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. Whenever you have it out, you're always going to want to keep an eye on the wind speeds as well. Once you get to about 5-kilometer-an-hour winds and the thing's shaking around, you might want to think about bringing it in because you don't want to rip the fabric, bend your arms. It can get pretty costly pretty quick. And let's say you had to bring that awning in during some sort of storm and it was wet. Always try and remember to bring it back out at your next earliest convenience. That way you don't accelerate the growth of mold or mildew. And you'll see once that is done, it's in. Now we are going to go to the back entrance so we can get that back slide out for you guys. Again, the stairs are going to work the same way. You're just pulling them out towards you. Then you can pull down, take the door, open it up. Inside that binder there is where you're going to find all your keys and manuals for the unit, as well as some remotes. Once we do take a step on inside, making sure you do take note of the way the versatile bed is. It is most of the way up. With it all the way down, it's not going to be able to close in all the way because the mattress is going to come into contact with your dresser. So you do have to put the versatile bed up for it to, when you bring the slide out in, bring the slide out, it's the same thing as the front, just being mindful of what's on either side of the slide, inside and out, and bring it on in. The light switch is on the right of the doorway there. And this slide out again, once it reaches its full extension, you'll just hear the motors wind up and click. And you got the clicking. Now you get your first tilt bed control. Up is up, down is down. Pretty self-explanatory. Right down by your feet, you got your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it's going to sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. And all your corresponding fuses are on the other side, on the right. Whenever one pops, there should be a little red indicator light letting you know which one has popped. Once you take a step on inside, in the bedroom space, you got your nice dresser here with some storage right here. Now there's tons of storage throughout this unit. Of course, with any of the storage, just being mindful of drains, water lines, and things like that. You got a coax outlet as well as 2 plugins. You do have a TV back on this wall here, so if you were wanting to mount a TV instead of putting it on the dresser, you could do so. Opening up this, you got a nice little closet space. Light, it's on its own center push button. And that's going to go for the rest of the accent lighting throughout because there is a lot of it. And then all the blinds throughout the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. One quick pull will allow them to track back up. You got a big storage space underneath the main bed here, as well as in front where you get some storage bins. Another accent light up top. Opening up this door will bring you into the bathroom, joined between the living space and the bedroom. Light switch on the left. Got your main GFI plug on the wall if you ever have an outlet that doesn't work. Most of the plugs inside this unit are ran through GFI, so you got reset up top, test in the middle. Again, if you ever have an outlet, just making sure that that's not tripped. It can trip sometimes randomly. Got your kitchen sink, hot and cold water, pretty basic bathroom. Other than that, again, tons of storage throughout. Up top, you're going to notice you do got your vent lid clockwise to open up that guy out of the way. Now, if you were to start traveling and you forgot that vent lid open, you do run the risk of damaging it, so keep that in mind. And if it were to start raining, because it's open straight into the atmosphere, it's probably going to get wet inside of here. We do sell max air covers here at the shop. It's a cover that goes over top of this vent. It's a great little addition. You can get set up with that by contacting the parts department. Again, they'll put a quote for you to decide if you want it or not. Fan switch is just in the corner. Turning it on, turns the fan on. Skylight in the shower, pretty cool. Now into the main living space. On your left, first thing you got your thermostat. Pushing the button once, it illuminates itself. Pushing it again, you're going to go into your mode option. And then if you push it 2 times, it'll go into your fan option. You can run that on either high or low. If you do run it on high or low, it's just moving air around with the air conditioner. There's no heating or cooling involved. It's just to move some air around. Back to the off position. Go back to cool now. Once you turn the cool on, you're going to notice in the fan setting it says auto. Whenever you're on auto, high or low, the system is an on-demand system, so it'll kick in and out as needed. So let's say you have the room set to 46 and it's actually 72 in here. Once the thermostat senses the room's at 46, it'll kick off the air conditioner. That way it's not running continuously. If you were to have that fan setting on either high or low without the auto, the fan does run consistently. It's not going to turn off, so just keep that in mind. One more time, we'll bring you over to heat. Now that's going to kill the air conditioner, fire up the furnace. The furnace does move its air through all the 4 portals we have throughout the unit, and it does run off propane, and there's only 1 fan speed. Whenever you turn the furnace off, it does run for an additional 3 minutes to allow itself to cool down. Now a really cool feature Coleman threw into this thermostat this year, they got the Cool Plus heat option, so you do have to have that fan mode on auto for it to work correctly. Now depending on what your room is set to, it's going to depend on what it kicks in. So it's either going to kick in the furnace if it needs to get warmer, or the air conditioner if it needs to get cooler. It's probably the best setting to leave it in, to be honest. And then one more time, I'll slide you over to off. And you're all done. You do have another pantry space behind you. You got your residential style fridge. Now this is only going to run whenever you're plugged into shore power. It isn't going to work off 12 volts or propane or anything like that, so just keep that in mind. Then you got your kitchen space, awesome kitchen space, microwave just like home, not much I'm going to show you there. You got your range hood. I always recommend running that range hood whenever you are operating your stove. That way you're evacuating those propane fumes as you need to. If you want to be extra cautious, it'd be a good idea to probably crack open that window as well. Again, it's going to be a personal preference thing. To get it to light, flipping the cover back, just keep in mind it is glass, so you're going to want to be gentle with it. And of course, the same goes for when you flip it back down. You're going to want to make sure you give it adequate time to cool down, that way it doesn't crack it. Now, we're going to go over a couple propane oops. With the propane system, once the system is turned off, and especially if you disconnect one of the bottles, it allows air into the system. Once air makes its way inside the system, it does have to be purged out. It's normal, it's fine. I always recommend whenever you get to your campsite, if the propane system's been off, turn the propane system on and fire up your stove first thing. It's the easiest, quickest way to purge all the air out of the lines. And the reason I'm saying the stove is because if you go to fire up your water heater or your furnace, those only try lighting themselves a couple times before they're going to throw a fault code at you. And if you didn't know what the fault code meant, you could throw a little wrench or frustration into your weekend. You want to try and keep the frustration to a minimum and the camping and good times to a maximum. So just a good idea to fire up your stove first thing just to get some flow going through the unit. Now whenever you're running the gas valve, it's very important. You're always going to want to make sure to hit that igniter every few seconds. Failure to do so could allow for a buildup of gases if they were to happen. And if you were to hit that sparker while there was a buildup of extra gases there could be a minor combustion. It could possibly cause you to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes, so you're always going to want to be propane safe, right? So whenever you hit the high option, you're going to be hitting that igniter every few seconds just to make sure that you don't get a buildup of gas. Of course, it fired up today because I already had the system running earlier. That's why it fired up so quickly. Typically, it can take a few minutes, just be patient with it. As long as you're running that sparker every few seconds, you should be okay. The same does go for the oven. That takes even longer to get going sometimes too, because the gas orifice is so small for the pilot. To get that to go, you're pushing it in, turning over to the high option, and then hitting that sparker. You're gonna see the pilot lights. Once the pilot can hold its own without the knob being pushed in, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it does fire right on up. And just all that, you got an oven light as well as some illumination lights. You can turn on either one. Turn the stove back off. You got your hot water thermostat on the wall here. Power button, turn it on, up or down to change your set temperature. As an added safety feature, so kids can't scald their hands, you are locked to 50 degrees Celsius. If you push and hold the up button for 5 seconds, that does unlock it and it'll allow you to go up another 5 degrees. But if you have kids, if you're done using the water, maybe think about cracking it down back to 50. Once you go below 50, you can't go back up again unless you hold it. So if they don't know that, it's probably a good thing. So hopefully they're not watching the video. Celsius and Fahrenheit with the press of a button. Pretty simple. Again, accent lighting all throughout this unit. A special note, behind here, opening up this guy, you're gonna notice once this is open, you need an Anakin's inlet sticker. Behind this false panel, you might not even have to take the panel out. You're gonna see there's a bypass valve hooked up to your water pump already. Follow the bypass hose back, it'll bring you to that bypass valve, and that's how you're gonna do that for winterization. Beautiful slide out area, and this is what we call the Versa Lounge. It's a sweet little setup. We currently have it set up for your dinette seating space, so if you had guests and you needed to eat, this would be a great spot to do so. And now if you had extra guests, either or does turn out into a couch, so it can turn into a bed, sorry, it can turn out to the bed, 2 beds the way it is now. Of course, just taking the feet underneath your table, setting the tabletop in its desired ledge. Take your back cushions in the center, and then the couch is as simple as pulling up at the foot. It's gonna fold out, make itself into a bed. Now let's say you want a sectional. You're just having to remove the one cushion out of the way there. Pick up this sectional piece. It's got stake pockets on either side of the couch for whichever setting you want it on. Switch it over to the other side here. Set legs in their desired holes. Sometimes you do get a little bit under here to go in. Once that's locked in, you're going to see now you have a nice little sectional. And I mean, if you really wanted to spice things up, you can get rid of this interlocking piece completely, fold both into beds, have one massive bed. Again, it's going to be a personal preference thing. Just cool that they threw that in like that. There's storage bins underneath the couches as well. Now coming to your entertainment center, this little black button here, turning that on, turns power on to the antenna on the roof. It's also going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency. So I recommend leaving it on whenever you're at your campsite. But if you're leaving the unit for a while, make sure you do turn it off because it does draw battery power. Got your stereo, pretty much just like home. You have zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1 is interior, zone 2 is exterior speakers. Behind this here, it's your TV backers. If you want to mount a TV, you can do so on the wall, or you can just set it up top. Again, it's going to be a personal preference thing. You're pre-wired for King Wi-Fi. Just contact your parts department to get set up with that. Fireplace down below, pretty self-explanatory. Power button on the far right. The button beside it's going to change your flame color. The button in the middle does your different rock light colors. And then 2 in from the far left will get you into your heat modes. Pushing it twice brings you into low. 1 more time gets you into high. And then you got a timer that goes anywhere from 30 minutes to 9 hours. Now into front trunk space, the light switches on your left. Very important note, you're going to notice this strap here. You're going to notice this strap here. Always making sure whenever you're traveling, you latch up this door. Failure to do so, you're going to see the door can slide freely. And if you're traveling, it's probably going to cause a lot of damage. Again, you just want to avoid that. So making sure you do strap that up. Once we're into the trunk space here, you're going to see it's kind of like the It's kind of like the Versa Lounge, except they call it the Versa Queen / Versa Bunk. You have it set up as a couch space right now, which is all cool, fine and dandy. But you got this queen spot here. So if you wanted to turn it out into a bed, you could do so. You're just having to remove this cushion off the top of this bench here. Remove the cushion off the top of the bench. And you can fold this down. And then you could fold out your queen topper. You'd have a lower bunk. And then you do have the top bunk spaces. You're going to notice they are stickered for which orientation. So this is going to be first bunk down, last bunk up, and this is going to be last bunk down, first bunk up. At least there's stickers there so you can remember, because I know I wouldn't if I was me. And you got a complete bunk space now. Firings it up on the wall here. You got the tab, pull it, the screen's going to pop out of place, and then you can take your handle, push it out, and hop on out of the unit in case there was a fire, which hopefully there would never be. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.